It happens. It's an accident or whatever you want to call it. Unplanned pregnancy. What would you do? What would you say to your mate?
I've had a baby.
Age has a massive impact on how successful you are at conceiving.
皆様ごきげんよう、高松菜奈です。今日私はですね、イギリスのサンドハーストにありますサンドハースト校にやってまいりました。今日はシティゼンシップデーということで、政治教育に関する特別な日ということで、中でも今日は性教育に特化している日ということで、一体どんな授業が行われているのか、今から実際に取材しに行きたいと思います。
Obvious things that affect your fertility. How successful would I be trying to get pregnant now? Not very. Why? Because I'm old. Yeah. So your age. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Your age has a massive impact on how successful you are at conceiving. Is that the same for men? That your age has a big impact?
Yeah.
Is it?
No, they can just do whatever.
No, women, their clock starts ticking or their eggs start drying up. I know. Yeah, you stop producing eggs. So men, you can see 75-year-old men having children, don't you? Their sperm just keeps on going. It's very sexist, but that's what happens. There's another thing you haven't mentioned. That sometimes when people are trying to conceive, they keep not getting pregnant because what? They're getting so stressed. It's scientifically proven that stress affects your fertility levels. Have you heard stories where some people have tried for years to have babies and they can't, then they adopt or they go through IVF and then what happens naturally? They get pregnant because they've stopped worrying about it.
They have test tube babies.
Yeah, IVF, which we'll talk about in a moment. So stress, that's what they used to be called back in the day, but IVF now we sort of call it, don't we? Yeah. So your stress levels also have an impact on that, okay? So, have a quick look at this graph, guys. So fertility changes. So these things relate to how a couple is able to conceive a child, right? Their ability to have a child. What do you notice straight away about fertility? This is your age. This is your rate of being able to get pregnant. What can you notice straight away, year 10? Right. As you get past this age, look at the women, past 30, it's quite soon, it starts massively dropping. For males, look at this. They go all the way to 50 and it starts sort of dropping a bit. Yeah? So very, very different between males and females, okay? How does this impact people's decision making in the future? What gets in the way?
Financial situation.
Absolutely. So you're in your most fertile when you're here in your mid-20s, yeah? But that's the time when you're probably deciding to buy a house, hopefully, or you're starting your career, or you're single, maybe. So, or you don't want children till you're older, yeah? And actually, when you get to this age, which happened to me, you start being like, oh my God, I want children, but I'm not ready, but I know that if I leave it, I'm not going to be able to. So it's really scary, and I think especially so for females, that decision, yeah? So it does decrease with age, yeah? So females starts to go down after 35. Menopause, when do women have menopause generally? When you stop having periods, you stop being able to conceive. So your menstruation stops. It's usually about 50, but some people do go a little bit earlier, okay? So obviously after that, you're not going to have any children anymore. But menopause doesn't just happen overnight. It takes a couple of years to sort of change. So if there's a period of time that you're stopping your periods. It's a bit like when you start your periods, that takes a while to sort of adjust. It's the same at the end. All right, so men, you've got a lot longer than women. Science, not fair, sexist, but hey.
Women live longer.
True. So that doesn't make sense, does it?
It's because
All right.
men are like 3 years behind.
Females have an increased chance of conceiving naturally before their 30s, whereas males does decrease with age. It's not to the same extent as females, okay? We've talked about age, STIs, smoking, alcohol, steroids. We didn't mention that, Chester. steroids, okay? If you're going to start mucking around with your body like that, that's going to have a massive impact, yeah? Other drugs, your weight, stress, environmental factors, okay? Alright, so I am going to give you some scenarios, and they are different couples or people's routes that they possibly could to go to parenthood. On the back of your page are the various different ways of conceiving, alright? So obviously we've got the natural one, which we all know about, yes? Then we've got a whole list of different things of other ways that you can have a child, yeah? So let's go through the ways of being able to conceive, okay? Or ways of parenting, first of all. Then we'll go through the scenarios and see what you reckon. So the first one, which you can't quite read properly, actually says just decide not to have a child. It is okay to say, I'm not going to have a child. Like, I think there's a lot of pressure in there in society. As soon as you get married or as soon as you're a certain age, they say, when are you having a child? Some people say, actually, I'm not. I'm choosing not to. So that is okay. Number 2, natural. Yeah, natural conception. We are all aware of that. With birds and the bees, we know how babies are made. Number 3, IUI, okay? Artificial insemination. That's slightly different from IVF. IVF is what you were calling test tube earlier on. So the sperm and the egg are taken and they are fertilised in a laboratory, and then the egg turns into the embryo and is put back into the woman's uterus to grow. Okay, so it's different from the second one. Co-parenting. So that's when actually two people, they decide to have a child together, yeah, and they share custody. So they are co-parenting basically. They might not be together as a couple, but they each have financial responsibility, responsibility for how they're going to be involved in the raising of the child. Yeah, they co-parent. Number 6, adoption. So this is a legal process. Some of you in here will be understand about that. It's changed over the years. I'm actually adopted, but the system has changed quite a lot from when I was adopted. When I was adopted, no, you didn't keep in contact with the mother at all. Now it's quite open, and I think the mother keeps in touch with the birth mother. Yeah. Another story. So fostering. Fostering, you can provide a child with a home. These people amaze me, foster people. They go on and do that so many times. It's amazing. Surrogacy, which we were chatting about earlier. Somebody else carries your baby, but it's your baby. Yes? Carries that baby for you, and then you give that baby to the new mother. Freezing your eggs. So similar to IVF, they freeze their eggs and then they can use them at a later date. So, what did you put for Rachel and Stephen? They're 40 years old, they've been trying for a year and a half, they've done their careers, they've been travelling, they've had a fabulous life, now they want to have children, it's not happening. What are you going to do? You're going to go with adoption. Why adoption?
Shh. Because they can't have kids, so they...
So at the moment it seems like they can't because they've been trying for a year and a half. But they might. Why? What are you saying? Do you think they could get a little bit of help and it still be their own child and they wouldn't have to adopt someone else's? The nice thing about them is that they're obviously financially stable. They've got quite solid lives. If they were going to become adoptive parents, they would be quite good category, wouldn't they, for that? But you're right, they could still do IVF. Anything else they could do? They could do any of those things, couldn't they? They could decide not to. They could foster. They could do the IUI. They could do any of those things, really, couldn't they? All right, what about Oliver and Zane? So they spend a lot of time with their nieces and nephews and friends' children. They love kids. They want to start a family, but they're just not sure what to do. Come on, what's the obvious?
Adoption.
Why? They haven't even tried to have any of their own yet. Hang on. Adoption is quite a long, difficult process. They need to just start making babies, don't they? I don't know. Argue against me. Do you think that's the right thing for Oliver and Zane?
Yes.
Oh, it's too... Oh my God, I'm so stupid. It's too many. I didn't even click that. So you're right, yes. So they are going to need, aren't they, a female somewhere there. Yeah? Same with 2 females. Unless, like you say, you foster or you adopt. Yeah, which happens quite a lot, doesn't it? All right. So Oliver and Zane, I'm very sorry. All right, what about Graham? He's on his own. Is this going to change? What are you going to say?
Adoption.
Right, who is not sure about Graham adopting and why? There's no right answer here, guys. It's your personal opinion. What do you think? Right, is it okay that he's on his own? Yeah? He is. I think nowadays they've changed it. It used to be really strict. They used to be like you have to be under a certain age, a couple, a healthy couple, like now, a different sex. Now I think it's changed quite a lot. Why shouldn't someone be able to bring up a child on their own? You know how many of us were brought up really by one parent? Look, a few of you, yeah? I don't see there being a problem with Graham fostering or adopting or getting a surrogate. They won't just let you do it easily though. Who knows what sort of checks they would go through? Well, massively. Yeah, exactly. So they would, in some ways it's quite ironic, isn't it? Because naturally conceiving, anyone can have a baby, can't they? But then if you want to adopt or foster, God, the checks they go through, like for your financial security, your emotional security, your background, whether you've got anger issues. The natural loss of a pregnancy before the fetus is able to start maturing and surviving. When does it usually happen?
What's that?
When you lose a baby? A miscarriage. When in your pregnancy of 40 weeks does it usually happen?
Near the end.
Yeah.
9 to 12 weeks.
It happens before your first trimester, which is up to 12 weeks, mostly. What's the difference between an abortion and a miscarriage? You choose to end your pregnancy. Now, I'm not going to get into a debate over that, because I'm pro-choice, it's up to you, it's your choice. But that's not a debate I want to get into. You can't confuse that with a miscarriage, though. You know, miscarriage, you haven't made that choice, it just happens to your body. It's really sad. You know, at your age, sometimes it happens, yeah? People get pregnant at your age, you're teenagers, yeah? So, what are your choices when that happens? You can obviously become a parent, yeah? Whatever challenges and things that happen, obstacles, you can become a parent. You could have an abortion, yeah? Or you could give that child up for adoption. Is that true, Year 10? If a boy knows he's about to come, he can pull out, and that won't get you pregnant. Is that true 100% of the time? No. Why? Why? Right, there can be a little bit still on the penis, or a little bit of pre-cum, whatever your term for it is. Yeah? Yes. And that can be there, or something will dribble out. Trust me, pulling out or withdrawal is not 100% safe for contraception. Could he fully clean up? You can absolutely. I wouldn't trust it. I would not trust that 100%. Yeah? Might just be a little bit left. Like, you can't see the sperm, can you? They're not sort of jumping around like that. They're not tiny weenies. Why is the law there at 16? I mean, it doesn't, like, for me personally, it's when you're ready. And some people aren't ready till they're 25. So, it happens. It's an accident, or whatever you want to call it. Unplanned pregnancy, what would you do? What would you say to your mate?
I've had a baby.
You'd have it?
No.
You wouldn't?
Well, it depends what age I am.
So you were 15, 16. You're in a long-term relationship.
I'm alright.
You would have. It's impossible to answer, isn't it? But you would 100% run away. That's what you'd want to do initially, but you've got to support them, haven't you? It's not just your life that's affected. Look at their life.
That's their issue.
It's not their issue. It's yours as well.
You're the one who did it to me.
I did it.
Well, they did it together.
Yeah, they never did it.
But hang on, who disagrees with this? Is it up to the girl or is it up to both of them?
It's up to the girl.
I'd say more.
Do you not think the boy's got a little bit of a...
I'd say more to the girl because the girl.
No.
Guys. I think
Yeah.
it's up to the
If the
girl.
boy's not supportive, no, that's it.
Yeah. It takes two to make a baby, and it takes...
One to look after a baby.
That's sort of diminishing your responsibility, though. So, financially, if she decides to keep it, are you not going to support her in any way?
How am I going to financially
Your
support a baby
family
if
would
I'm in
have to.
school?
You might have to.
I'm still in school doing my
I know.
You're
Yeah.
a bit sad.
So is she.
I'm doing GCSEs.
Look, we're all having a go at you. We're not having a go at you, but sadly, that's how some people think, isn't it?
How am I gonna earn money?
Well, this is the decision. Maybe you should have thought of that before you didn't put a condom on.
Yeah, but I wouldn't.
Good, because you wouldn't do that, would you? Yeah. Generally, it takes two people, doesn't it? Yeah? And you need to have that responsibility, okay? Right, shall we tidy up before the bell?
最後までご覧いただきありがとうございました。ぜひチャンネル登録、高評価お願いいたします。それではまたごきげんよう。